Good morning. So my name is Seth. This is Miri. We're part of Core Services Engineering, which is formerly Microsoft IT. So we're the IT team inside of Microsoft. What I'm going to talk about in this session is how we drove our own internal cloud adoption. Even though we're Microsoft, it wasn't an automatic press a button and we were in the cloud. It took a long time. It was a journey. And I'm going to share sort of how we went about that and how we're looking at it today. So feel free to ask questions. I'll kind of cut you off if it gets too crazy, but I'll do my best to answer. And if there are questions that you have that I can't finish in time, I'll be over here at the booth afterwards. So to start with driving cloud adoption in any org, and what we found out specifically inside of Microsoft was the need to move to an agile mindset. So not just in terms of software development and adopting DevOps, as it's traditionally thought about, but more so, how do you work this into the rest of the culture inside of IT? So how we did that was in a few ways. The big one was moving most of our IT business operations into VSTS, or now Azure DevOps, to run all of the projects that IT is responsible for. And what that did was create a common language and a common book of work across the whole organization so that we were able, it was easy to have conversations between teams and understand who's working on what, understand from a reporting aspect of what are the key projects, what's their status, things like that. So obviously, within our software development or software engineers that build line of business apps for Microsoft, they're using Visual Studio and continuous deployment, continuous integration. But one of the learnings, like I said, was moving the whole org into this mindset of sprints, of delivery, and then also service reviews. So it's important to have a live site culture as you move into cloud services, because maybe you're providing the admin of a cloud service for your organization, like Dynamics 365 or SharePoint Online, etc. But also how you provide services to your internal stakeholders as a service rather than an individual siloed application. So when we first started thinking about how we were going to move our portfolio, and to give you some background, we have about 1,800 line of business applications. So within Microsoft, we manage, HR, finance, sales, marketing. To do that, we created over years and years 1,800-ish line of business applications, which is not a good thing to do. I wouldn't recommend doing that yourselves. But we had a culture of building everything. So we had a lot of sort of movement between product teams and IT. They wanted to build a new thing every time there was a need within the business, and we did that. So it got very messy. So when we started to look at it, we really broke it down into three sort of buckets and then a small exception. So those were commodity, investment, and sustain. So that's how we classified all these workloads, applications, or services, whatever you want to call them. So commodity were things that we could basically provide with a SaaS offering. So email, SharePoint, Dynamics, and that's expanded a lot, obviously, with all the new features available through Power Apps and things like that are moving more and more into that bucket. The next one was investment or sustain. So investment were areas of the business or applications where we were actively running projects to improve them in some way. Either an entirely new application or service, or something where we were revamping. Maybe the HR team was changing the performance review process and we had to make a change. So what that drove was development or engineering into PaaS, or platform as a service. That's how we prioritized what we do with that segment of applications. And then sustain is just that. So those are applications that are there, they're working, they're serving their purpose. We just lifted and shifted those to IaaS. Finally, we have some unique regulatory or legal data sets that we kept on-prem and may still be there in some cases. So that was sort of the high-level strategy we took to looking across the portfolio of 1,800 line of business apps. Then we did an in-depth assessment to prioritize and decide what we were going to do with each of those. So there's a ton of words and things up here, but realistically, we looked at different categories, from the business impact or business criticality of the application to its architecture, the type of workload, how it was architected in the past. Was it loosely coupled? Was it a monolithic scale-up application? And with that, we came up with a, I'll say, incredibly complex prioritization exercise that did give us some answers. But throughout this, what we were really looking at was applications as a silo or as a technical object, right? This application was made up of a back-end server, a business layer, middle tier, and a web front end. What do we do with each of those? And I'll tell you where we ended up now. That got us into Azure, that got us into Office 365, but we ended up essentially with the same thing in the cloud that we had on-prem, right? And this is a fantastic way to execute that if that's where you're trying to go. And when we went through that process, we ended up with this sort of distribution of all those apps. So a big savings was around 30% of our environments or resources, or however you want to describe it, we're able to get rid of or right size. And a lot of those came from the dev and test environments that we no longer needed. When you move traditional workloads into Azure with a lift and shift, you don't need identical dev and test environments with those because you can create them on demand. Around 15% went over to Dynamics 365, Office 365, and then 35% are the complex line of business apps. So those are things we specifically built for Microsoft, for our business processes that couldn't easily be handled by a SaaS solution realistically. So within that, we went to basically different technical solutions based on what was possible, what we could build in PaaS or SaaS, and then finally lift and shift. So like I said, in the past and through our migration, we really looked at it as a technical problem to solve. We have this workload, it sits on this resource or uses these services. How do we do that in Azure? That's the question we were trying to answer. As we've moved forward, we're 90+% of all of Microsoft's resources internally are in the cloud. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it's very high. And we've sort of shifted our thinking. So a few years ago, we moved to a concept of a service offering. And those are different than what we called our applications or our portfolio in the past. A service offering is something that's offered to the business. And for HR, for example, it's the hire to retire process. That's the service offering. So within that, there's recruiting, there's retention, there's employee reviews, there's payroll, there's all the things that have to do with HR. And why we did that was not just to look cool, but to think about that as a whole end-to-end process that we provide to that business unit, right? And what that started to change from a culture perspective is to move away from owning these siloed apps where, Sam's team owns this, Deborah's team owns that, they're responsible for this thing. What it did was open the thinking of these are all the pieces and get away from that sort of castle mindset of this is my thing, this is what we do, and move to this is a service, how can we make it better end to end rather than treating each individual piece as a separate item or technology. So we started there, and where we're looking at today is two main areas. So experience design and architecture maturity. So those are our focuses inside of this still complex portfolio of applications and services, but this is how we're prioritizing the projects that Core Services Engineering or Microsoft IT is working on today. So as I mentioned, in the service offering, we're looking at experience design. So for that HR employee that's working through this process we support, how are we designing a, quote, experience for them rather than incrementally, tweaking how an application works? And those are the outcomes that we're looking at. Is it simpler? Have we removed steps? Does that HR person not have to go through 9 apps and we can reduce or combine a couple of those into 2 or 3 applications? And then the business outcomes is how we're measuring our success in how we optimize those different applications and services, right? So when we talk to HR, we're not talking in terms of, our site reliability or uptime was this, and we had this few tickets, and it's more tied to exactly what they're trying to accomplish. Their percentage of, what was their recruitment efficiency. How are they able to recruit at a faster rate based on the systems that we provide to them? And then architecture maturity. So as I went through, we really looked at our portfolio, all of our resources, and tried to answer the question of how can we do this in Azure or some other cloud service. And like I said, that isn't necessarily the right question if you really want to drive digital transformation or IT maturity. It's more of how do you optimize this whole stew of what IT has to do. So the core of that is maturity in architecture. So it's not looking at an app individually, it's looking across a group of apps like HR apps, I'll keep using that example, and look at where data is replicated. Do we have 9 copies of the same database, in different applications that, number one, we're paying for, and number two, we have you have the possibility of having incorrect data or sync issues or all the things that come with data replication. Modernization, do we have a seamless mobile experience for this application that needs a mobile experience? When we talk about maybe the sales audience, are they able to do everything they need to on their phone in a customer meeting? How do we drive app modernization in a holistic way rather than, some shining stars in certain, organizations? And then engineering hygiene. Are we using shared code libraries? Are we, working together across the different engineering teams to make sure that telemetry is working in a similar way across applications? And then finally, cultural transformation. So all those things come together in combination with our agile methodology across the business, across the organization, to drive towards what we see as modern engineering. So I talked a lot. Any questions? Who's in their middle of their cloud journey? Who's done? Question? Let me grab a mic.
So how did you guys get all the business side of the house on board to participate in this? Because their pipeline is always full to deliver functionality. This is perceived as an IT initiative to go to cloud or something.
Yes. So I'll answer it in 2 ways. So the question was, how did we get the business on board with this? Because their priorities are always at a feature level or functionality that they need. From a cloud migration standpoint, number one, it was essentially pitching this as an opportunity for the business to customize and provide some features, at the same time moving into, we'll say, Dynamics 365 or whatever the modern version of the app is, ideally, that we're providing them in the cloud. From the lift and shift side, it was essentially invisible to them, and that made up around 50% of the cloud migrations that we did. And we just, use the standard, Azure Site Recovery and stuff like that to ideally do it with very little downtime. But where we're moving more substantially to like a SaaS offering, or specifically, business processes that were done in a legacy way to a modern, maybe Office 365 driven business process, it was packaging it with additional functionality. So when you're thinking about planning projects or pitching them, unless it's a lift and shift or there'll be no, user impact, you got to show up with some benefit that they're going to get out of it. And ideally, cost is going to be part of that from an operation perspective, but that can be tough depending on the financial model of your organization versus the peer teams in the company. But it's really, number one, not moving to the cloud just to do it, but to hopefully get some more functionality, for you as well as the customer. So that's the answer, for the migration part. For this, how do you do this now, right? Because we didn't suddenly have all this extra time because we moved to the cloud necessarily. So how we do this is we've changed the conversation from being an order taker to being a business partner. And that's easier said than done. But what we've done in core services engineering is created a vision that supports the objectives of the company and basically prioritize work based on that. So it's a balance. It's a balance of how you do that, because on the one extreme, you do everything for these clients and you're their, order taker. On the other, you're independent and not taking as much, outside input into what the team is working on. But what it's done for us is allowed us to have a vision for not just this bit, but how we see the company transforming and how this supports that, right? So it requires a bit of salesmanship from IT that isn't always there. And part of that has been where we've shifted our focus in hiring. And so these are some of the commoditized skills, and I know that's a terrible word, but these are the traditional IT roles. And then these are more the roles that we're hiring for inside of core services engineering, right? And one of the big ones is relationship manager. So that's what partially enabled that. Most of those folks have come from the different business units, so maybe they were our interface into the HR team, and they're an HR professional. Now they're in core services engineering or IT. And that's been critical to sort of changing that conversation so that IT isn't just, asking for budget, but coming forward with more impactful projects and initiatives that are actually going to help the business.
Thank you.
Here, let me.
On your previous slide, 2 slides ago, you had SaaS kind of at the top of your model,
Yes.
and we're very similar in that respect, but the more I keep seeing about Azure Functions and serverless computing, I start to see all these SaaS applications that we buy and manage and all the contracts and everything that goes with that. I feel like we could build a lot of what these tools are doing much cheaper and manage them ourselves. Obviously, you need a staff to do that, but have you guys thought about that with the rise of serverless, of let's just forget SaaS? I mean, obviously you can't all the time, but try to utilize functions and things like that more?
Yeah, so I would say we're unfortunately going in all different directions at the same time. So that's definitely happening. I'm doing a talk later today about how we actually replaced a lot of our integration with a serverless system for supply chain specifically. In terms of SaaS offerings, we're doing more functionality addition, using serverless like Azure Functions or Power Apps, things like that. So I would say holistically, we're still using the SaaS applications for their primary purpose, but we're doing a lot of customizations to build and one of our big projects is to build a very specific sales experience using some lightweight, serverless tools that allow interaction with some SaaS solutions that have become too complex to work on a mobile device, for example. So I wouldn't say we're replacing things wholesale with serverless designs. Number one, because it requires a lot of effort. And if a SaaS solution's going to do 80+% of what we need, we're going to stick with that and just add functionality, like I said. But we do have teams doing a lot of experimentation in different areas.
I wondered how you set the business unit expectations. When we have things on-prem, we react to an issue immediately, and you may not have that with the cloud provider. How do you set that expectation with your business units?
Yeah. So how do we set expectations with our business partners in terms of reliability and responsiveness? So a lot of that obviously is going to come from the cloud provider. And us, even though we're in Microsoft, we're still a customer and often a lower priority than real customers, to be totally honest. But it's really about, number one, regardless of which service offering you're going to, is understanding how to engineer reliability into the service. Because you do lose an aspect of control in terms of, you can't send Joe over to the server room to fix it right away. When we did lift and shift or any of the Azure solutions, we actually went down in terms of our SLAs to a lot of business units. When we went through that process, it wasn't just looking at the technology, but that big circular chart was what is the service level the business actually needs? Because we were often over-providing in the past, just because that's what IT did. We're risk-averse.
But you've set that expectation, and
yes.
Then it's a problem when it doesn't maintain that.
Exactly. So from the past, we often had let's say, batch reporting servers that ran, at some interval, or as they ran every 2 days. But when we actually went back to the business, it was often that they only used those reports every 2 weeks. So going through this exercise is a good sort of cleansing motion as well, because if you take the time to not just, massively move at a fast pace, you actually build those business relationships, because you can ask, those questions of, what do you guys actually need out of this? And in a lot of cases, like I said, we were actually over providing. We could have done less. And from a reliability perspective, with the SaaS offerings, it's sort of black and white, right? You know what you're going to get. You have a service manager, account manager, assigned to you, or you have a point of contact and escalation process, and that's easy enough to share with our clients. Like I said, from an infrastructure perspective, in some cases, it was actually much easier to provide more availability in Azure, because you can just click on geo availability, and we didn't always have that option with our private data centers. I think the fellow back there, and I think this will have to be my last one. I'm right at time.
Yeah, if you could go back to one slide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Here I just wanted to know if there is any order. Where do we really start? Because I feel like we're going in cycles. We think about the data consolidations, at the same time modernization, or even getting the business coming to tell us what new functions they might need. So is there a better order or a hierarchy that we should follow that helps us move to the next levels?
So for us, we're honestly doing all this at the same time. So we have a data team that actually is a peer group of ours. My team is in part of shared services engineering, which is actually driving several of these. And that's a team that doesn't have ownership of any applications, but they're responsible for working across all of the data sources to understand basically where there's duplication, where we're using, relational databases and we shouldn't, which is a huge cost problem when you start to move into the cloud. And where can we basically build data aggregation points across different services that we might not have seen as related before. But when you look at things end to end from a service offering, you see that you have a lot of opportunity for optimization in the data side. The user scenario design is part of our team as well. They're a peer to the data team, and they're UX designers, they're researchers, and they work on projects basically prioritized from a high level. So right now they have 6 or 7 projects. So some of those are the sales experience I mentioned. Some of those are HR tools. Basically they work in that fashion. And then the individual app teams are the ones focused, on the modernization and this. This is kind of everybody, right? Okay. Where everybody needs to focus on app modernization. Everyone who is in an engineering role or a service offering owner role. And then hygiene, of course, is the same thing.
And how often they come together to meet and discuss? Because they kind of overlap.
Yep. So most of the rhythm of our business is about service reviews. Okay. So each of these service offerings has a monthly service review to basically share the progress to our CDO, or Chief Digital Officer, who reports to the CEO. And he's responsible for all of core services engineering. So they show up, and as part of a service offering, there's a lot of factors. So they report on all of this, of course, and that's where it happens at a high level. From a project perspective, these guys are working on individual projects. Same here. Each of these are sort of individual projects that have their own rhythm. So the data team, for example, is working across all these different projects. So they're running projects separate. And the trick with it is separating out gives you efficiency, because if you ask every team to do all of this, it's not going to happen, right? Some people will be better at others, but you won't end up at the same place together.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think we are out of time. Thank you very much, and I'll be over here if there's any more questions.